Hello and welcome to both episodes 34 of Arg My Optics and episode 4 of We've Got Back Issues. Yes, as in traditional comics, we're doing a crossover episode in which the characters from one established title appear in a plucky new title, hoping some of its popularity and audience will rub off. So, who are those characters? Let me go around the table and have them all say hi. My regular co-host from a podcast where grown adults discuss, overanalyze and generally take a toy media franchise originally intended for kids a little too seriously, usually that of the Transformers, and our token young person, Virtual Dave.
Hello everyone.
Hi. And joining us from another podcast where two middle-aged men traverse comic book history, witnessing tales of daring do, fantastic voyages and tantalising adventure as they revisit the good, the bad and the outright ugly of four-colour comics, the writer of this intro, Galactosh.
Hello!
Hi. And next to him around our virtual table is occasional Arg My Optics guest host, Transformers Marvel UK comic reader and newly anointed vintage G1 collector, Michael Quintesson.
Hi, great to be back on Arg My Optics and for the first time on We've Got Back Issues.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for coming. So, and finally, completing our ensemble cast, it's me, Orion Ghia, or Sleeves, or whatever you want to call me, from two of those podcasts I recently mentioned. So, why are we here? Anyone want to field that question so I can stop talking for a bit?
Transformers.
Very philosophical question.
There's a new Transformers comic.
Oh yeah, and that.
Indeed. So essentially, yes, Skybound have just started a new Transformers comic, so we're going to talk about the first 6 issues. If you've listened to us do this on either one of the podcasts, you'll know that there will be spoilers. So if you haven't read them and don't want them spoiled, go read it and come back. And if you don't care about spoilers, continue listening. You have been warned.
Back issues. We got back issues.
So, yeah, let's get into it, shall we? Shall I just do a kind of a summary of what's happened in Transformers comics so far to get to this point?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd sort of, you know, like, obviously I've read a lot of the G1 stuff, but I'm a bit patchy on a lot of what's happened between then and now, although I have read some of it.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, I'll admit I've read bits and pieces of everything that's ever come out, but nothing continuously.
Yeah, and I think you're the same, aren't you, Virtual Dave?
If not less so.
Yeah. So, originally, I think we all know this story, Hasbro originally went to Marvel Comics to help them develop the random assortment of Japanese toys that they'd bought off of Takara to form this new toy line. And as a result, they ended up with the license for Transformers comics. And they started releasing comics in the 80s. 80 monthly issues in the US, 332, sometimes fortnightly, sometimes weekly issues in the UK. They also published a short-lived G2 comic. After that license laid fallow and kind of unclaimed for about 6 years, with just a few convention and collectors club comics kind of filling in gaps here and there, in 2001, Dreamwave acquired the license and began a hugely popular reboot of the G1 continuity, as well as releasing a few comics under the other ongoing properties at the time, like Armada Energon and a few other things. And on Energon, they got Simon Furman in to work on it, who talks about it in our interview with him on Arg My Optics.
Mm-hmm.
However, Dreamwave seemingly overstretched itself by neglecting its own IPs and acquiring more licenses, such as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Capcom. And Dreamwave CEO and giant egotist Pat Lee enforced a house style, which meant he required everyone to draw like him, including Andrew Wildman, who'd been drawing comics since the 80s. And he began not paying the creators.
Oh.
Which this led to Hasbro renewing the license and the company filing for bankruptcy in 2005, with many creators still unpaid to this day, I believe.
I mean, just to jump in a little bit, do you know, did they mess up the finances, or was this guy just like an out-and-out crook? Like, what's the story?
It's Unclear, I think.
Yeah,
but I think people
I
are
guess
fairly sure that he was. Yeah, he wasn't behaving very sensibly with the money.
Let's just say allegedly a lot.
I mean, there are probably better scams. If you're going to do a scam, there are better scams than, like, I'm going to acquire the rights to Transformers comics and then eventually not pay the artists. Like,
Well, I've heard worse. I got contacted by Michael Jackson on Facebook the other day saying he's not dead and wants $500 so he can release some music and make his comeback.
Well, maybe that is Pat Lee.
Maybe.
Who
Allegedly.
knows?
yeah.
So anyway, IDW Publishing acquired the license directly after Dreamwave folded and began what would become the longest-running Transformers continuity ever, which ran for 13 years. It was a hard reboot of the G1 continuity, and it was originally overseen by Simon Furman again, but later encompassed the input of many creators, both old and new, creating a sophisticated and sprawling continuity that did eventually end in 2019. And then was rebooted by IDW. Now, I don't know whether it was some kind of Hasbro interference that caused this to happen. I just tried to look into exactly why they did that. But they essentially rebooted the whole thing. It didn't do very well. And due to a lot of things, IDW lost the license because it had a bit of a rough time during the pandemic, had to lay off a lot of people, lost its president, Chris Ryle, who'd been like a champion of Transformers in the early days. And they lost their license from Disney as well. They were doing Disney comics at the time. That went to Marvel because Disney bought Marvel. And then obviously they lost the Transformers license and the G.I. Joe license and all the stuff that goes with their Hasbro licenses. I think they clung on to a couple of Hasbro licenses. I think they're still making My Little Pony comics. But yeah, that's it. So there's a lot of speculation and rumour as to who, if anyone, would be taking the license. But Robert Kirkman's Image imprint, Skybound, were kind of being rumoured quite a lot early on. And it was confirmed in July 2023 that Skybound would be acquiring the license of both Transformers and G.I. Joe. And they would be launching a shared Energon universe encompassing both books and franchises. Although this was stealth revealed by a new comic coming out from Robert Kirkman himself called Void Rivals, in which Jetfire appeared. That book is part of this Energon universe. That also the Transformers and one or two of the weirdly some of the G.I. Joe comics are not part of it, but some of them are.
That is weird.
Exactly. One of them is a continuation of the original G.I. Joe comic from back in the 80s, so that's not part of it.
Okay, I can kind of see.
Because this is a good point to leap in from a comics perspective, particularly around Image taking on the rights to make a comic of something. Because, yeah, there's lots of films made of Image stuff and TV and things like that, but they generally don't go into licensing.
It's true.
Because they're set up as a creator-owned business. That's originally how they were formed. Is a load of creators got very annoyed with the big boys and decided, no, we're going to set up our own stuff and create our own content, own our own content, and put it out that way. So Image taking on a franchise is an interesting step for them.
It's unusual, and I wonder whether that's why it's under the Skybound imprint rather than being directly under Image.
True.
Because it's that's Kirkman's own little playhouse, as it were. I mean, what's put out by Skybound other than Transformers? I mean, I guess it was
Walking Dead
and Invincible, but they both finished, haven't they?
Yeah. Well, Invincible, sort of. I'm not sure if they're just reprinting it again or they're doing a continuation again.
Yeah. But, I mean, otherwise, I don't know what other things are under Skybound these days, to be honest. I'm sure there's a bunch of comics I just don't know anything about. But, yeah, it is odd. I did think it was strange when they first kind of mooted it. And I was like, well, yeah, but Image don't do licenses. IDW do them all the time. So do Boom.
That's all they do.
Yeah. And, of course, Marvel do them. Marvel do, they did Star Wars. They've done Transformers in the past. It is an odd one.
I guess my sort of question on, about the whole, business deal of doing Transformers comics is it's like, who, obviously when back in the 80s it was part of the devious plan by Hasbro to sell toys. But, who's it for these days, and like, what are they popular? I guess that would be like a question I would have.
Well, I mean, I think they're more for adults than they are for kids now.
Sure.
Yeah, it's more adults who buy toys.
And, I mean, the IDW comics were popular at their height, especially when James Roberts was on it and so on. Like, there were some periods where it was very popular. And the Dreamwave comics were a massive hit, like huge. They're making insane numbers.
Really? I didn't realise that.
And these Image ones have sold gangbusters. Like they're on the 5th or 6th reprinting of issue 1.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, we'll get into why it's popular as we go through it, I guess. So, I suppose it's a little bit of background on the creators of this comic. It's written and drawn by Daniel Warren Johnson, who he's fairly new talent. He started with a self-published sci-fi webcomic called Space Mullet, which was popular enough to get him noticed by Dark Horse. Worked for them for a couple of years, put out his first creator-owned comic called Extremity through Image, which started his relationship with colorist Mike Spicer, who is the colorist on Transformers. He then did a couple of other creator-owned mini-series called Murder Falcon and the Eisner Award-winning Do a Powerbomb, which won Best Publication for Teens in 2023. And then he got the gig on Transformers. And it's important to mention at this point that Do a Powerbomb is a wrestling comic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought it might have been the sister of Dua Lipa. Glad you cleared that up.
Okay. And so, yeah, Mike Spicer is his, like, regular colorist. They work together a lot. All right, well, all that out of the way, should we actually talk about the comics in question?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, might as well.
We got back issues.
Okay, issue 1, and now my video is working. I can show you issue 1. Ooh. There it is.
Ooh.
So this was released in October last year, and we have a cover of Prime crouched, fist clenched. Apparently, I read that Daniel Warren Johnson wanted to use the old Transformers font title.
Yeah.
Which is why he left this negative space above Prime's head.
Really?
And then
he wanted like the one from
Hasbro said, no, you have to use the current branding.
Oh. So that is Hasbro's current version of the Transformers logo, and they were like, you can't use the 80s one, we don't want that.
Yeah, essentially. Because that's how it looks on all the toy boxes these days.
I mean, I guess that's vaguely reasonable from their point.
Definitely says Transformers.
Conditions.
Yeah, but
It does, yeah.
that seems like a weird stipulation, though. Like,
Well,
not even
I mean,
for a
it is-
variant cover, at least.
This is Hasbro we're talking about. They make weird stipulations like this.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, that's apparently why there's some negative... I didn't even notice it, but I just read it up. Because he did like a couple of YouTube videos about the first couple of issues about, you know, what his thought process was behind some of the art and so on.
I think I watched at least one of those that you posted, and I was sort of like, after seeing it, I was a bit like, I don't really like the sound of this very much, because well, he was very like, I was like, this guy, I mean, it's not always a bad thing, but it doesn't really seem like, he didn't seem like a, you know, sort of a real fan of Transformers. He was like a guy that kind of remembered it from the 80s and was like, I just want to like make Megatron Prime again.
Yeah.
And I think we were all a bit like, how many times can we retell this story? You know,
Yeah.
And I was, but then, obviously, I suppose if you're launching a new version, you've got to do something.
Yeah.
Well, there's only so many times you can retread the same floor.
Well, are there though?
Well,
Well, yeah, it does appear that we can do it forever
is it?
at the moment.
Michael Bay took an interesting view on how to do it.
that's a fair point.
Did he?
Well, I used the word interesting with inverted commas.
Oh, yeah.
He did do something. But still, it is kind of the same elements warmed up, isn't it?
I was trying to count before this. I was just sort of looking through just like Wikipedia on the sort of franchise overview, and I think this is maybe like the 7th or 8th time we've had some version of this across all the comics and cartoons and various different things. But I mean, actually, I actually did enjoy it quite a bit more than I was maybe expecting to from watching that video. Just to get that out of the way.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. I was worried. I was very concerned. I was concerned about the way he was talking about things. I was concerned when we saw some of the early artwork, and I was like, oh, so it's G1 again then?
Which it very much definitely is. I mean,
yeah.
They even look a bit like the toys, I think, some of them.
Yeah.
Like Cliff Jumper looks more like the toy Cliff Jumper than like even the old cartoon version.
Apparently he's got a collection of toys on his desk that he uses for reference.
Fine. I think that's good. I always said the toys are the primary source.
Yeah, should be. So the comic opens with some images of war on Earth and in space, it appears.
Can I just say this first panel is Michael Bay.
Oh, yeah.
Helicopters flying low in the sunset.
Yeah, I suppose.
That is true. Or,
Yeah, that is so Michael Bay.
Mm-hmm.
That's his trademark shot.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I think the whole thing is quite cinematic. It has a bit of a vibe of this would be the cartoon show I would make kind of thing, in a way. Like the mature cartoon show I would like to, rather than a comic, if you know what I mean. Not that it makes it any less of a good comic as a result, and it does have a bit of that kind of vibe to it.
Oh yeah, all kids love PTSD, first thing on the first panel.
I know, you go straight into it, don't you? There's a dead man on the first panel.
Yes.
Well, on the third panel.
I mean, maybe graphically not so much, but I don't feel like the old comics necessarily shied away from having like slightly more like adult themes, even though they're for kids. And that was maybe that was like one of the things about comics, that you could do stuff you couldn't really do on TV and get away with it a bit.
Yeah, and I mean IDW did it as well. Like, I mean, they did lots of stuff about gender issues and so on. And
oh sure, yeah. So but that was much more of a. I mean, that wasn't really for kids. That stuff, I guess.
Yeah. So anyway, turns out these are memories of some guy called Sparky, who is obviously Sparkplug, but
yes,
only referred to as Sparky in this.
Fine.
Yes.
That's completely acceptable, I think.
in fact, at least it's slightly different from the original, eh?
Unless they've named him after the magic piano.
Who knows?
Deep cut 80s reference there. Sorry, Andrew might be too young for that one.
I mean, it might simply be that he's an electrician, because he certainly works at a power plant.
Yeah.
I'd like him to be an electrician, or because he's just a Sparky.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that works. Yeah.
But
Would the rest of the Sparkies be a bit upset about that, though?
Well, I mean, Sparky's more of an English term, isn't it? Anyway, so maybe in America it's not such a widely accepted term for an electrician.
If American viewers could let us know.
Yes, please.
Do you say Sparky?
But yeah, he also appears to obviously be a veteran of some sort, because he's in a veterans bar.
Okay, actually, this raises a question, and I'm not sure if this is answered.
I thought it was a neo-Nazi bar. Sorry.
No, I mean, there's a big eagle on this, but it says VFW on the wall, and that stands for Veterans of Foreign Wars.
Oh.
Do we know when this is set, or is it purposefully ambiguous, or even not purposefully ambiguous?
I think it's ambiguous. I'm not sure how purposefully.
Yeah.
I thought it was the 80s.
It does have a bit of an 80s vibe to it.
Well, he's dressed up like Marty McFly.
He is a little bit, isn't he?
Let's look out for any clues.
Don't they talk
don't
about
have
the vehicles
mobile
are very
phones.
80s.
I think it is the past.
Don't they talk about the Vietnam War? Like that was the war he was in.
I don't know. Was it explicit?
People who fought in the Vietnam War are still alive, though.
It felt like it was the Vietnam War, but like I don't know if it was said.
I mean, the choppers and that's very Vietnam, isn't it?
It could be Afghanistan, like, if it was
The uniform, the army uniforms look very 80s, 70s, 60s.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't think they explicitly say what war it was. So
no, I don't think so.
But essentially, Sparky is a bit of a boozer, possibly to get away from his troubles.
Definitely.
as in PTSD and so on. Mm-hmm. And it turns out, it also appears that someone else died in a rocket accident. Mm-hmm. Who I mean,
I was a bit confused by what was going on at this point, but it does make it much clearer later, to be fair.
Yeah, so, I mean, so basically, Spike is his son. Spike turns up with a telescope. He says he's off to check out the full moon on Hanger's Rock, and he goes, "Oh, is that Jimmy's?" As in the telescope, and he's like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Why would you want to remember?" So yeah, it all gets a bit more revealed later.
It's like looking through telescopes is what killed your brother's son.
Yeah,
that's the vibe.
So they basically end up arguing, and then his dad leaves for work with his mate. Do we get his name at this point? Because it does come up later, doesn't it? What his name?
It comes
is.
up later, but I don't think we grab it at this point.
No.
Davey.
And then there's Carly with her really sick ride.
Definitely 80s.
That's what also made me think this might be the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it does feel like it based on that.
Got Gandalf taking on Conan on the side of a van.
Yeah, so we've got Carly, who's been recast as a kind of visual artist with a cool van.
Wait, is Carly an existing character? I didn't even know
she
that.
was Spike's girlfriend in the cartoon, and
Was she?
yeah.
This goes to show that I haven't actually seen that much of the cartoon because I didn't have Sky when I was a kid.
I mean, in the cartoon, she was a typically blonde white woman.
Right.
She acted more like an adult than these two do. At least these guys are quite teenage-like.
I think they are teenagers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, but I mean, in the cartoon, Spike was meant to be a teenager, but he was working at a power plant, and he was essentially just a man.
Yeah.
He could have been his first job out of school, 16.
Yeah.
He had like no teenage characteristics at all.
No, exactly. He didn't hang around with any of the teenagers.
No.
Why would you if you can hang around with robots? Yeah. Giant fighting robots or girls? Which one are you going to choose?
Well, I don't know if I was a teenager. I think maybe the girls. I don't know. Anyway, Carly has this amazing truck with a wizard and a Conan and a dragon and a castle on it and shit. They're going to go look at the stars or something at Hanger's Rock, which is some kind of mountain or something.
Lookout Mountain.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And they get talking about how he wants to become an astronaut and he's not told his dad yet because obviously his dad is upset about another astronaut dying who we will probably later learn is related to them. But they've not actually said it quite yet.
It's not that hard to guess there's something like that going on, nor is it meant to be, I think.
So yeah, essentially, well, I mean, spoilers, guys, it's Spike's brother.
Shock horror.
Yeah. And she's going to go to art school, but then there's an earthquake, and they fall down a hole. And to be honest, it looks like the kind of fall that would have killed them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but it doesn't. They just get a bit scuffed up.
Artistic license, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And they end up kind of
in the engine.
Yeah, like they're in one of the exhaust ports of the Ark, essentially, looking very much like the Ark from the original cartoon and comic and etc. etc.
Yeah,
like it's an identifiable thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I'm a little disturbed that you can walk through the exhaust pipe into the main area of the Ark, though.
I don't think you.
That doesn't sound safe.
I don't know if that's exactly what they do, but I do know what you mean. They seem to find access that way, don't they? Somehow. But yeah, I mean, apparently, originally, Daniel Warren Johnson wanted to kind of revise the design of the Ark, and he drew it with just 3 exhaust ports, and then I think Hasbro said no, he needs to make it look more recognisable, and added the extra 2 in.
Bizarre.
Sacrilege. It would have been.
It's weird behaviour, isn't it?
I think that's weird. I mean, it's just like... if you'd asked me, I couldn't have told you how many engines it's got.
No.
It's just a spaceship.
I suppose Hasbro have a toy of it.
Right.
Oh, they've made transforming arcs, haven't they?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Recently, there's a recent Transformers arc.
Right. So they were just kind of like, can you make it look a bit more like something toy?
Guys, we need to sell more toys. This comic don't look like the toy. We won't sell the toys.
I was going to buy the toy based on this.
Well,
it's just 5 engines.
So anyway, it turns out they're on the arc, and essentially, yes, it's the beginning of the G1 Transformers story via More Than Meets the Eye / Arrival from Cybertron. All the Transformers are lying around offline, damaged, and there's been a big fight, and they're strewn all over the deck in front of Teletran 1. What I noticed straight off the bat is they all look like they turn into Earth vehicles.
Yes, I did notice that.
And I'm like, oh, no, not this again. Why are you, redoing the same mistakes you always did in the past?
Did you not just hear about the 4 engines? I mean, probably it was another Hasbro decision.
I know, but they're going to get reformatted in a minute, aren't they? You know what I mean? So what difference does it make? I don't know if it was mandated. It possibly wasn't. It might just be that this is the way that the artist sees the Transformers story. Artist and writer. But yeah, and if you look very carefully in the distance through the kind of hole in the side of the ship, I imagine it's like a door, you can see something's on its way towards them.
Well, that's been mentioned in the previous panels in the bar, where you've got the Madmans, and it's where it opens up like it's some kind of UFO conspiracy film.
That's right. He does
got
mention
the fella
it, doesn't
going. There's been a boxy flying thing. It's white and red.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I thought it was the arc crashing. Was that Jetfire?
I think it's Jetfire he's talking about.
Jetfire.
Yeah.
And the first thing I noticed on this panel, though, is how Prime's head seems to be attached at 90 degrees.
Well, it's bent back, isn't it? It's
that's not bent back. That's directly at 90 degrees. Like it's been stuck on at a different angle.
I think it looks okay.
I think it looks fine.
Whatever.
But I mean, yeah. It is basically the same, almost exactly the same scene from the TV show, isn't it?
I'm willing to put money that they're in exactly the same positions.
Skywalk, definitely.
Very similar, if not. Yeah.
I think there's a bunch of things in this that reference the things we've seen before.
Yeah. We're going to get a lot of that. So Carly and Spike are kind of getting in, entering, and then Jetfire turns up and transforms. I do like the kind of onomatopoeia,
but sounding more a bit horrific with the way it's drawn. Like it's some kind of horror noise instead.
Yeah, there's lots of that. There's lots of like sound effects written in interesting ways in this, and mostly it's good. At times it's obnoxious, but mostly it's good. That's a good example of it. So he's turned up. He started this earthquake apparently to gain access to the Ark.
As you do.
And he's managed to kind of scrape up enough energy to start reformatting them, bringing some of them back to life, essentially, using Teletran 1.
Yeah.
Much like the original TV show, only in that one, the earthquake kind of woke Teletran 1 up. This time it's Jetfire. And Jetfire has, like I said, been appearing in other comics up until this point. So there was a little bit of a backstory in Void Rivals before this comic came out. So we know he's around. If you're reading the whole Energon universe, as it were,
sure.
Which I'm not, even though Dave's Comics of Brighton did try to make me do that by slipping in issues of the other comics into my into my pull list. And I'm going, but this isn't on my pull list. Yeah, but it's part of the same universe. Well, yeah, but no, thanks. I'll put that back on the shelf.
But I mean, isn't like all of Marvel part of the same universe? You wouldn't apply that logic there, would you?
Very true. Yeah. Yeah. If this went, I'm with you, Spider-Man. Here's the other 20 Marvel titles that came out this week.
It's kind of links up somewhere.
It all makes sense in 20 years' time.
So what else is in the Energon universe? G.I. Joe.
It's G.I. Joe in this Void Rivals comic, essentially.
So far.
Is that a new thing?
That's a new thing. It's essentially about two warring space factions where I read the first issue and two of them crash land on a planet and they're complete enemies of each other and they have to work together to get off the planet.
Okay.
Oh, enemy mine.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a trope.
Story.
It's a trope.
Yep.
Hasn't got Dennis Quaid in it.
It's a good story.
Yeah, and then at the end of on the end of the comic, they take their helmets off, and it turns out they're both the same species.
Oh.
So they've remade Enemy Mine. Dennis Quaid was in Enemy Mine, and Dennis Quaid played Duke.
Did he?
Dennis Quaid was in the G.I. Joe films.
Was he?
Oh.
Right.
It's
Well, I
all
refuse
coming
to watch
together,
those.
people. We're through the looking glass.
Yeah. So back to the comic.
Yep.
Basically, the first Transformer to be brought back to life is Starscream, obviously.
I have
Why
issue
not?
with this.
You have issue, why?
He's the furthest away from Teletran 1.
I mean,
Why is Teletran 1 doing it the least efficient way possible?
I don't
It's broken.
know.
It's not running at full capacity.
He's under Prime.
Jetfire choose? It sort of feels like they know each other from back in the day.
They do, and they did in the TV show.
Oh.
Yeah, in the TV show, Jetfire was a Decepticon, wasn't he?
He was kind of tricked
Sort
into
of
becoming a
was.
Decepticon
Right.
for a while. In both the comics and the TV show.
Oh yeah, he was neutral, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was like a scientist, like an explorer.
Yeah.
Well, did they like convince him that the Autobots were the baddies and they were really the ones trying to steal the Energon and all of this, and then he like worked it out because he's not an absolute idiot.
Essentially, yeah.
It's like, how come you keep doing evil stuff? And they're like, "Wah." Like, don't worry about that.
Why do you keep saying "wah" after every sentence?
Yeah. What's this conquer the universe stuff?
Exactly. So yeah, so you see, he kind of says hello to his old friend, who immediately blows the face off a Bumblebee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bumblebee takes one in the mouth. That's a recurring theme through these.
Mm-hmm.
Autobots keep taking one in the mouth.
I think it's a recurring theme of Starscream being an absolute bastard, almost for shock value to a certain extent.
Bloody
Yeah,
psychopath.
I mean,
Psychopath.
there's quite a lot going on, I think, at this point. But like, it's sort of it seems odd, and this is sort of something that doesn't really seem to particularly resolve itself in these 6 issues. Is like, how come like the Decepticons and like Starscream specifically have gone turned this comically like evil? Because when Jetfire seems like calls him friend, and he seems to think he's like basically a nice normal person, which he's not. And it's like this. It doesn't really. I'm not clear if they're kind of going somewhere with this in like the longer story, or if it's just a bit clumsy.
Yeah, that's something I kind of commented on in my notes. I think that in place of kind of doing anything particularly new or innovative, they've kind of chosen to go, well, the new and innovative thing is the Decepticons are murdering arseholes.
I saw it a different way. I thought it was because it was leaning more to around the passage of time. Because in the Void Rivals Jetfire had been asleep for a long time.
Yes, he has.
And he's been asleep longer than the war's been going on. But from Starscream's perspective, he doesn't think he's been offline for very long. So the time, I think it's just like a gauge of like how long this has been going on. Well, that's how I took it.
I think the absolute giveaway is there's one panel where Jetfire goes stop to Starscream. Starscream goes, get out of my way. Jetfire goes, this is madness. And Starscream's response is, exactly.
Yeah, I think I noticed that too, and I think maybe there's a sort of implication that he's just kind of gone bonkers because he's been fighting the war for too long.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like it's like he's so bad.
He's a complete bastard.
There is another way to look at this, because we've already mentioned PTSD,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to go on to the 2 sides of PTSD.
Yeah.
Like, you've got Starscream, who's going mental,
Mm-hmm.
and later on you've got Prime, who's gone over the emotional.
Yeah, and also you've got Sparky as well, who's also suffering from PTSD.
Yeah.
No, sure.
That's what I mean. It's just because the first page is the parallels between Sparky, Prime.
Yeah, they're essentially the same character.
So I read this as a whole analogy for PTSD, but
Yeah.
written by someone who doesn't understand PTSD.
Maybe. I mean, I think you're right, and I think Virtual Dave's also right in that the Starscream that Jetfire knows doesn't exist anymore. Jetfire was like in the Void Rivals first issue. He'd been offline for quite a while. Then he'd also left Cybertron before the war started, so his perspective on Transformers kind is completely different to what it is after the Ark crash lands. And I mean, I don't think the Ark has been there that long.
Well, it must have if a mountain's gone over it. Like,
no, it could crash into a
crashed in the side, hasn't it? Did they say it's 200 years?
Mountains don't grow over the top of things. That's not...
Well, for it to be completely concealed after the fact. It's not a volcano like in the cartoon, or at least it's not mentioned as one.
Yeah, but I mean, if you smash hard enough into a mountain, the rest of the mountain will fall over the top of it, won't it?
Well, yeah, but I mean, for how...
Can I come at this from actually having a geology degree?
Oh.
Yes, go on.
Mountains don't grow over time. It's millennia. No, not even millennia. It's millions of years. It's all about plate boundaries hitting each other. Anyway, you wouldn't get a mountain form around something. It'll crash into a mountain because it is sticking out the side.
Well, it isn't until he does the earthquake.
Well, I didn't mean that the mountain grew. I just mean that it must have been there a very long time. Otherwise, human civilization would have known it was there. Like, it must be almost like the cartoon where it's must have been like 4 million years have passed or something.
But unfortunately, Virtual Dave, that's not possible because they later say that the war's only been going on a few hundred years.
I think it's 200 years.
Yeah.
And Jetfire's been gone 100 years.
Well, okay.
The wizard did it.
I don't think it's like that clear.
No.
Like, I think when I first read it, I thought that it was like cloaked or something, but I don't think it is. Looking at it again now, I don't know.
I thought it crashed into a mountain, got buried by rubble.
Buried by rubble.
Yes,
It's a very classic Transformers thing
exactly.
to happen.
And I didn't put. I know I'm a massive pedant, but I just kind of skimmed over that one. Of it crashed in, got buried. Moving on.
Well, it is made clear that Jetfire starts that earthquake to uncover it so that he can get inside the ship. So it was clearly covered up a bit, but we don't know for how long. And I don't think the writers even thought about it. To be entirely honest with you,
I was going to say I think it's more like an oversight because over the years of Transformers lore is what it is. It's always Transformers time and human being time is different, and like it gets thrown about like with different types of words to describe time, like that was introduced in Beast Wars and stuff. Like,
yeah,
you're saying one Cybertronian year is 100 human year.
Basically, like something like that.
I don't know, maybe
That's always possible.
it's not hugely important, but
No.
it's a thing. I did look into the blowing up of Bumblebee.
Oh yeah.
And apparently it was a very deliberate choice by Daniel Warren Johnson. I'm going to refer to as DWJ from now on, I think. Otherwise,
Yeah.
And he felt like the audience was getting a little bit tired of seeing Bumblebee everywhere. And surprisingly, Hasbro felt the same way. So they were all right with it.
I saw this as very much like a statement. This is almost like a statement being like, this isn't going to go the way it normally does.
Yeah.
Although in a way it sort of does do that as well.
The surprise kill-off.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got, I mean, I think this sort of is shot through the whole thing in a way with, there's certain things that are there, like, to notice, where it's a bit like, if you were reading this for the first time, you'd be like, I don't know who this guy is and, like, why this is important. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a bunch of stuff that sort of sticks out. And it's like, I know it's not that realistic that many people are not going to be at all familiar with it, but...
Yeah.
I don't know, it sort of seems like that kind of subtle, like, fourth wall breaking a bit. It's like nodding at you.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, we've got a massive one coming up any second now. So, they fight, and you get Jetfire gets shot in the chest, and... in the background, you see that something else is being rebuilt by Teletran 1. A very familiar-looking arm. Yeah, Starscream says, I'm surprised at you, Jetfire, showing weakness. What a waste. Trust me when I say this marking is a sign of true evil. We must be vigilant in wiping it out. And then Prime goes, never! In a reference to Transformers the movie.
I caught that one.
I wrote that in my notes. Prime says never.
Yeah. I mean, never doesn't even really work with the line he just said.
No.
Yeah, what does he say?
We must be vigilant in wiping it out. Never.
It's not quite right. It doesn't quite follow.
But will we never be vigilant in wiping it out?
You will never wipe it out.
Yeah? But it's just so that we can have that line that he said in Transformers the movie.
I think he'd say, like, no, or, like, not today, Starscream, maybe, which would even be, like, a kind of another sort of little reference.
Exactly.
That's a Hot Rod line, though.
Yeah, nevertheless.
Whatever, it's fine.
No, Hasbro would have problems crossing that.
Hasbro wouldn't sign off on it.
It'd be like someone else singing Bono's line in Do They Know It's Christmas? It's never going to happen.
Maybe it's just Prime was mid-sentence when he went offline. And he's continued saying it.
Yeah, sure, maybe. Anyway, he chucks Starscream on the deck, and we go into full-on wrestling mode now.
Oh, yeah, I did see the suplex.
Yeah, he suplexed Starscream.
He does, yeah, there's quite a lot of wrestling.
great.
I quite like that about it. It's weird. It's weird. Yeah. It's weird. A weird thing to do.
It is a weird thing to do. I don't hate it. I just think that it's a motif that comes up a lot through the 6 issues.
Yeah.
There are a lot of repeating motifs through this.
Oh yeah. I wouldn't disagree with that. But it's fine. And it's pretty, bombastic and like kind of a bit of a shocker for everyone reading to see Optimus Prime suplex somebody. You're not expecting that.
Expected this necessarily, no.
Just waiting for him to come out with a people's elbow next.
Yeah, well, I think he clotheslines him. Isn't he clothesline him first, then?
Nah, he just takes a swing.
Something like that, yeah.
I don't know. He knocks him
It might
right
be a
over
clothesline.
He knocks him right over his own arm.
Yeah, I thought it was just a really bad punch drawing.
No, I think he's basically pulled him forward and over his own arm, and then he's suplexed him. So it's very wrestly.
Oh, yeah, that's when we get Ratchet coming with the big boot.
Oh, and that's a reference too.
It's a wrestling move, but what's it also a reference to?
It's a wrestling move.
It's a reference to when Ratchet high-kicked Thundercracker in the G1 cartoon.
Oh.
And it's also a reference to, I reckon, anyway, maybe it isn't, maybe it is, a reference to when Ratchet punched Starscream out in the G1 comic, Marvel G1 comic.
Okay.
So yes, Ratchet appears and helps out. And basically, we start having a big fight in the arc.
This is like a Royal Rumble.
Mm.
You start off with one, then another one, and a contender enters in, and then you get more and more coming in. Some are on the same side, some are not, and it's like, who's going to be last in the ring?
Mm-hmm. Skywarp turns up. He's been regenerated.
Yeah, precisely. This is Royal Rumble.
Yeah. Starscream kind of orders Skywarp to kind of drag other Decepticons into the line of the beam, as it were. So he drags in Soundwave. So they're definitely going to be outnumbered shortly. So they decide to retreat somehow, get away from there. But Ratchet points out that there's loads of their comrades lying around deactivated, and we should probably take them with us. To which he goes, "Oh well, I think I should have a trailer around here somewhere."
That was an odd little moment.
It's also the way that Teletran one took the time to build him a trailer before, others.
Yes. Yeah, well, I suppose it was all part of the process of rebuilding.
I was going to say.
And again, with Starscream dragging Decepticons into the way of the beam, my go back to my original problem with the selection method of Teletran one in the first place.
Yeah, but I don't disagree with you, but I think it's a small thing.
It's really like the visual of them being rebuilt is quite cool as well. Like they're kind of like almost looks like they're being split apart and then reformed, like fixed.
Yeah, and I like the visuals of their transformations as well, which we'll get onto later.
Yes.
There's a bit ripped from Bay there. Anyway, I'll talk to that a bit when we get there.
Prime kind of basically sees his blaster and decides to fight off Starscream and Skywarp while Ratchet is loading the trailer full of deactivated Autobots. And then there's a big explosion because Soundwave uses his rocket launcher on his shoulder, which he almost never uses.
Indoors as well.
Yes, and causes a huge fire, and that's when Optimus finds the body of his little friend Bumblebee with no face.
Little friend. Right, this is either the PTSD again, or was there something more between Prime and Bumblebee? Like, he's very affectionate to that one that he's seen.
Well, I think
he's seen all of his comrades lying around.
I think in this particular bit, a little bit of prior knowledge of Transformers, informs you that he's the kid character, kind of.
Yeah, I think it's sort of implied here as well.
Yeah.
A little bit. He's
I've
kind
got
of a bit
more
of
of
a
a
kid.
lover's feel, but
Well, maybe.
It does feel a bit like that, yeah. The weakest, he calls him mourning over the weakest of them all, Starscream says.
But again, it's also PTSD again. It's the two sides of it. Going crazy, weeping uncontrollably.
Yeah.
I know it's much more multifaceted PTSD than that in total, but
Yeah. I
In a
do like the
nutshell.
way that... So he gets attacked by Starscream, and I do like the way that... basically, Spike and Carly... Well, Spike at least, works out that he must be the good guy.
Well, because he has a little chat with him first.
Well, not really a little chat.
oh, he's already said,
So-
"Get behind me, small
He says,
creatures."
"What are you?" He said, I'm Spike.
Oh, yes. The what are you thing. So he's protecting them, that's it, yeah. Yeah, well, I think that's good that he doesn't know what the hell they are. It's not
Yeah.
kind of assumed or anything.
He's just woken up, yeah. Doesn't know what's going on.
And then, so they push his ion blaster over to him, and then it's hero time. Yes, every issue has Prime doing a hero thing. Every single one.
As he should.
And then also having a weep every issue.
So yeah, in this one, it's when he's like blasting the crap out of the Decepticons, and then blows up Teletran 1 to stop them from building more guys. Thundercracker almost gets rebuilt, but he blows up Teletran 1 and he falls to pieces again.
Yeah, I like that.
And then it's got Prime running out of an explosion, cradling the humans, which is like that's the big hero moment, I think.
It's like the cover of Backdraft. That image.
So then, transform and roll out, and we go to a sideways panel. The page gets flipped on its side, so we can see the alt modes. Prime looks very G1.
Yep.
Ratchet doesn't.
No.
And they're off. Again, apparently, DWJ didn't much like Ratchet's original 80s alt mode, so he changed it.
Oh,
For the better.
Well, I don't know about for the better. It's just still an ambulance, isn't it?
it's definitely a change.
It's a fine change.
It looks like a transit van.
It looks like a transit van, yeah. I mean, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. The same, really, isn't it? They're both ambulances. So they escape, and Spike suggests they go to an old quarry. They're being chased by the Decepticons, and Jetfire gets involved after kind of managing to kind of crawl back up off the floor, and he's got stuff leaking out of his chest, and he's a bit fucked. He does basically chase them down and stop them attacking the Autobots, who go to a quarry, and then Jetfire dies.
Jetfire dies.
But first, there's another trope, another thing that Prime keeps continuously trying to do. He keeps trying to get his Matrix out.
Yeah, all the time. It's a bit annoying.
Yeah, and Ratchet's like, no, not. It's like, you're going to use this up, don't do it now.
Exactly.
But the way he does it reminds me of when I went to see Shooting Stars and the Fast Show live in the 90s.
Okay.
I went on a Thursday night, and because it was Thursday night,
Yeah.
Bob Mortimer kept getting up every 5 minutes during Shooting Stars with his swimming kit, because it was swimming night. And Vic was having to go, no, it's not swimming night, we're doing this. And it's just like, every 5 minutes he's going, oh, Matrix, and someone's having to go, no, not now.
No.
It's not tonight.
Oh, to be fair, they do sort of go somewhere a bit different with it in the end.
Yes.
So maybe it's sort of one of those you think you know what's going on, but you don't sort of things, which again is a bit of a nod to the reader.
Well, when we get to that point, if you can explain, Michael, what the hell is going on, I would really enjoy it.
Super obvious.
But the whole Matrix thing, it feels like it's, this is quite the darkest hour, isn't it? His trailer was filled with like 100 dead bodies of his fallen comrades.
His trailer is filled with about 10 dead bodies. You couldn't fit 100 in there.
It's so messed up. Like, from the perspective of them, like, it is not looking good.
Oh, they're not dead, though.
They're deactivated.
Yeah, the robots. It's not the same. Apart from for Jetfire, apparently, that's death.
apart from Jetfire.
It does seem to be very kind of like, oh, right, as soon as anybody is on the brink of death or needs bringing back to life, he's like, let's use the Matrix. And then Ratchet has to go, no, because if you use the Matrix now, we won't be able to use it later. And also, it's connected to your life force or something, so it will cause, you'll die or something.
It's unclear, actually.
Again, this kind of feels like a PTSD analogy. It's someone sort of like going, no more death on my watch. Come on, I'll give it up.
So anyway, he was going to use the Matrix to revive Jetfire, and basically Ratchet goes, the Matrix can heal people, but it can't stop the inevitable, and basically it's Jetfire's time, essentially.
Yeah.
And Jetfire does die, which obviously Prime's very upset about. Meanwhile, back at Teletran 1 and the Ark, Soundwave points out that Teletran 1 is fucked. They need to fix it, essentially. If they're going to want to bring any more Decepticons online, they're going to have to fix it. And for that, they need energy and raw materials. So they head off to a power plant nearby.
As you do.
Just like in the cartoon, essentially.
Does Soundwave like cradle Ravage for the whole of the rest of the following 5 issues?
He does.
Mm-hmm.
In like every time he's there.
Oh, even worse than that, he gets a bit narked later on with how Starscream treats the body of Ravage.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
Yes.
not too unreasonably, I think.
Important plot point here. This is the first time Megatron gets mentioned.
Yep.
I think he says, you have the most energon in reserve, thus the harvesting is up to you. It's what Meg... And then he's like, do not say his name. I am the leader of Decepticons now. And he doesn't like hearing anything about Megatron at all.
Was it Soundwave like it's bringing him up like constantly? So there's a kind of like difficult dynamic between the two of them because of this.
So they go to, basically we get a little kind of scene with Sparky and Davy, who is his mate who took him to work.
Yeah.
And they're at a power plant, and it turns out it happens to be the power plant that Starscream suddenly turns up at to steal energy. And then he spots Davy running away, trying to get into his van and get out of there. And he just picks him up and...
Squishes him.
Yeah.
With a lot of blood.
Yeah.
Pops him.
Yeah, so fragile, so squishy, so pathetic. And you've got this massive blood-splattered squish on the panel.
It really messed up because Sparky was having like an argument with him, really. Like, they were having a bit of a heart-to-heart, and he kind of was going to storm off, you know?
Yeah, Davey was saying maybe you should, pay more attention to Spike and, he needs your support and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, don't you tell me what to do.
Because this is what reminds me that Starscream reminds me of Chucky. And how they've written it.
Oh.
It's a crazy little psychopath just wanting a kill, having some fun, and runs around like Chucky.
He is an evil motherfucker.
He seems to really relish it, doesn't he? And it's sort of just squishing people becomes like his thing now.
Oh yeah, there's a line later on where I think he just goes, I've got to go do some killing.
Yeah, I know there's a few other guys that talk like that. I do find like the motivation of Decepticons in general like quite confusing in this whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, it's just Starscream that's this far gone. Like the others are,
I think Reflector gets a bit nasty,
but not in like the same type of way. It's definitely there is something going on with Starscream, and it's definitely a level above. Because like even what you just said about Ravage being looked after by Soundwave. And, like, there's obviously, like, they do care about their fellow colleagues.
They sort of seem to sometimes.
But Starscream does not care.
He doesn't care about anything. I think maybe this is going to be, like, this has got to be going somewhere, I guess.
Oh, yeah. I think so. I think it's a character thing with Starscream, for sure. All right, well, that's the end of issue 1. Shall we move on to issue 2?
Yeah.
Back issue. We got back.
this issue, I mean, I've frozen, so you can't see. But the front cover of this has a view from the back seat of a fighter cockpit with Starscream reaching towards them, smiling, like laughing, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Having some fun.
So, we open the issue with Optimus enjoying Earth's beauty, and then he steps on a deer.
Oh, no.
Bambi!
Yes, then he has another little cry.
I like this, though. I think this is a good character moment.
It is.
Because he feels genuine compassion for the creature, and kind of comments on how fragile life on this planet is, and he feels a lot of guilt over bringing the war here, as it were. I think it's a good thing because sometimes Prime can be portrayed as quite cold.
I think it's really weird when they do that, and I'm glad that this isn't that. This is sort of like, I think they do him quite well in this. Actually,
They do.
It's like he's kind of what you want from Prime.
Yeah. For the most part, I totally agree. I mean, the emotion and the heart's there, even if maybe, like Galactosh shows, it might be overwrought in places. I think it comes through and works.
I guess his main thing is he considers all life to be of value, and that comes across very clearly.
Yeah, and in this scene, he kind of they talk about family, and even though he doesn't really understand words like mum and dad, he understands the concept of family.
That gets hammered quite heavily, I think, through the whole thing.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, I made a note of that and underlined it and went, family.
Yeah.
This is about family.
Apparently, Hasbro wanted the deer to be a smaller animal, like a squirrel.
What? Does Hasbro make notes on that level of detail about this stuff?
How would he even notice? What's he going to do? Pick it up on the tip of his finger?
Well, I think that they didn't like the idea of their hero character murdering something quite so gracious as a deer.
Oh, murdering. It's manslaughter at best.
Well, they're often a pest. Let's not forget.
Yeah.
You've got the population needs to be controlled anyway. So I don't know if this is a tragedy.
Round my way, there's muntjac everywhere going rampant.
And Americans go out shooting deer all the time, so I don't know what.
Yeah, it's a little odd. I mean, also it's like a squirrel is so small compared to him that it's like it would be weird.
Yeah,
That'd be too.
Can you imagine him cradling a squirrel?
Yeah,
try and draw that.
Well, like Galactosh says, it'd be on his little finger.
Yeah. It'd be like him picking up an eyelash.
Yeah. Virtual Dave, did you get another reference from this?
Bambi.
Oh, I thought considering you're the Iron Giant fan, I thought you would get a different
Oh
reference
yes,
from
of
this.
course. That was in my because it does parallel with that a lot.
Yeah. So explain that.
Well, there's a similar type of thing happens in the Iron Giant film, like when your first few moments of getting to see this creature, he accidentally steps on it's another deer, I believe. Yeah.
I think he watches a deer die, or a deer dies, doesn't it, at some point, and he...
Yeah, because he sees it dead, and he goes to pick it up, and then there's this whole thing about like respecting the dead body, as it were. And I think Prime kind of does that as well, because when he puts the deer down, there's like a real shot of him like putting it back on the ground and like
carefully lowering it to the ground. Yeah.
I like the way the deer's got a footprint in it.
No, I think this scene's done really quite well. I'm quite keen on it.
Oh no, I'm not being flippant. It's got a footprint in it. It makes it look like a tyre track's gone over the middle.
Yeah.
So it looks like roadkill because he's a car.
Yeah. Well, yeah, pretty much. So we have a chat about family, and then we start talk. We do a bit of backstory, a bit of kind of exposition.
Sure.
About the war, and we see Megatron for the first time.
Almost see Megatron for the
Well,
first
we
time.
do see
No,
him.
we do see Megatron,
We see him.
Can't really see his
No,
face.
you see him in shadow.
and then you see him ripping out Optimus's optics, like in the movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's exactly that scene. I'll rip out your optics.
they did happen. His conversation got cut off. He was about to say never.
No, that's a bit later. But yes, it's again referencing the battle in Autobot City, which will be referenced again, by the way.
Quite a lot of that film will be referenced again.
It does feel like that's all he's actually seen.
Yeah, it feels like
That's all you need to see, really.
It's like he's seen Arrival from Cybertron, like the first 3 episodes, like More Than Meets the Eye episodes. he's seen the movie, and then the rest is kind of patched together from this and that he, maybe a few movie things or a few cartoons he's seen here and there.
That's what most normal people do, isn't it? They're not like us.
Yes, but we're not being paid. We're not being paid to write and draw the comic, are we?
Do you know? I'm going to come out and say this. There's an element of this whole thing that reminds me of Star Trek Into Darkness, that terrible second J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie, because it's sort of like. It's like a remix of all the elements you're familiar with, but just from the most like obvious surface level stuff. And it's sort of always also going like, aha, but it happens like a little bit differently this time. A little bit differently.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yeah.
But I like it a lot more than that movie, though, to be fair. Like I don't think that doesn't stink in this, but it is a bit, it's a little bit much sometimes.
It's certainly there, but it doesn't grate on me. But it is definitely there.
It would be hard to be as smug as that movie.
It's like someone's watched it all drunk and then wrote down in a fever dream what they remembered the night before.
Yeah, or just weren't particularly that into it or that paying that much attention in the first place, which is fine.
That's not necessarily a problem. Sometimes you can almost have a bit of a fresh take, but I think this sort of isn't really quite that.
No.
It's not particularly fresh.
This is more like Force Awakens.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, apparently the war's been going on 200 years, that's what it kind of says here, which is a shorter time than the normal 4 million.
I thought like 4 million years was a distractingly long time to drop into a story. Well,
they did have a break.
Yeah, they had a long sleep.
They had a time out for a while.
It didn't feel like 4 million years to them, but like it's just weird. It's sort of like, why is it 4 million years? I was always really confused by that.
I suppose just so that you had time for the volcano to explode. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's weird, but yeah, that's what it does.
Is that not what happened? Am I misremembering this? It's not that they went they crashed and then were asleep for 4 million years. Not that the war had been going on for 4 million years.
Well, think about it. The war must have been going on for 4 million years because when they wake up, it's still going on.
They get up and pick up where they left off.
But it's also sort of just Shockwave sitting on that chair.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's like but nothing was going on. It was like
technically we're still at war.
Well, it depends. It depends if you're talking about the cartoon or not, doesn't it?
Yeah,
in the
comics.
If you're talking about the comics, there's Transformers on Cybertron doing all kinds of stuff.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's also the equivalent of the Isle of Man is still at war with Germany.
Well, because there's never declared peace.
They were invited to declare war, but never invited for the declaration of peace.
Right, okay.
So technically, they're still at war with Germany.
Yeah. But this does suggest that Megatron was on the Ark at some point.
Mm.
And obviously there's another big suggestion that he was on the Ark a bit later on.
Well, we're assuming he led the mission to bust up the Ark.
Yeah, it does. It kind of implicitly says that.
It's not explicit, but it seems like pretty clear something like that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. So then we go back to real life, and Cliff Jumper turns up, and he's got the biggest head I've ever seen on a robot.
I think it's fine, actually.
That's what she said.
I quite like it, actually.
I don't mind it. It's just something to comment upon. His head is as wide as his body.
He does go quite off model.
Does he look different to the original? I thought he looked exactly the same as the cartoon.
Kind of.
I think his head is bigger. I mean, to be fair.
It is quite large. I mean, it's fine. It's just something I noticed.
Me too.
I don't care. It's not a problem.
No, it's not a problem at all. It is just a big head. Yeah.
So yeah, Ratchet's been fixing people up, and he's fixed up Cliff Jumper, who will obviously be replacing Bumblebee as the young character. It's essentially a repaint of Bumblebee anyway, so I don't really know why we need to swap them out, but it's fine.
Well, I suppose I guess I'll say this: like we've now got two lead Autobot characters who are red. And if we'd had Bumblebee, we wouldn't have had that, and it would have been a slightly different colour palette. But, like, he's got...
Even Ratchet's half red.
He's a slightly different character, I guess. He's a little more hot-headed.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And either a germaphobe or massively disgusted by humans.
Well, wouldn't you be?
Yeah.
No, I think that's quite nice that he's freaked out because he's never seen anything like this before.
Yes.
It's a more natural reaction. Prime's just like, these are the people that live here, I guess. And Cliff Jumper's just like, holy moly, like, what are these?
Ugh, they're all kind of organic and weird.
He's grossed out. Like,
Yeah.
reasonably so.
Yeah, and we get some good characterization of Carly, like straight off the bat. She's not taking no shit,
Yeah.
which is good. A different character to the one that was in the G1 cartoon was a bit kind of like, well, your typical girlfriend character who did nothing. So yeah, they shake. Well, she shakes his finger, and that's that. So they head back to the quarry where Prime's trailer is reconstructing people. So they're definitely using the trailer here.
I mean, that was sort of fun to see it being used for its like. I think that is meant to be its like real purpose, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a kind of a repair deck, isn't it? Really.
So
I like the way it really looked like the toy.
Yeah, the toy has that. And, well, I mean,
it looks
obviously
exactly like the toy. Well, very similar anyway.
it's even got Roller down there in the picture.
Yes, you're right. Maybe there's a little Zoid man inside the cockpit. It would have been in mine.
Yeah. Then, so yes, they're putting people back together, and it looks like Wheeljack is the next project. And then Carly decides to just randomly customise her van. For no reason.
Yeah, as you do.
This won't be important later, honestly. Meanwhile, at the power plant...
Hold on, you missed Prime trying to get the Matrix out.
Yeah,
Oh yes, sorry, Prime tries to get the Matrix out again. You're
Prime is threatening to get the Matrix out, and everyone has to talk him down.
So what are we on? Issue 2, 2 Matrix attempts.
Every issue we have, Prime tries to get the Matrix out. Prime is a hero. Starscream murders somebody. Every issue.
Yeah. He pops someone in the first... Yeah, anyway, spoilers before we get there.
Well, so yes, you're right. Prime does say, oh, well, maybe I can use the Matrix to revive everybody, because he's basically saying we haven't got enough energy or raw materials, much like the Decepticons, to bring many people back. And Prime's like, well, let's get the Matrix out again then, yeah, okay. Yeah. No, don't do that. We've gone over this already. You can't do that right now. Later. So yeah, then we go to the power plant where the police are interviewing people who work at the power plant, including Sparky, and they're driving cars that look like Prowl.
Yes, I noticed that.
Apparently that was a deliberate choice, a bit of misdirection or something.
Well, it sort of makes sense because they've been reformatted to fit in.
Yeah, exactly.
So there should be stuff that looks like them.
Yeah, I think the reason...
That's also what makes me think it's the 80s.
Well, no, I think the reason that people maybe pointed it out was that these were Japanese police cars.
Right.
Police cars in the US never look like this.
Okay, I guess that's true.
I suppose
but,
not.
I mean,
Doesn't matter.
I don't think so. I think it's fine.
It's not important.
It makes sense in the worlds that we're in.
So anyway, this is the point. At this point, Skywarp turns up and crushes a couple of the police cars.
Big smile on his face.
Yeah, it goes boing. I guess that's the siren shutting down. Then the rest of the Decepticons turn up with a huge
capacitor.
Yes, for converting energy into energon, I assume.
Yeah.
Note at this point, Soundwave is flying.
Cool. Yeah, that is true.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. We'll come back to this later.
All right.
Yeah.
He could have done a mighty big jump.
Yes. All right. Well, no, he flies again later anyway. The police fire upon them, and it's time for Starscream to stomp on a human. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
As you do.
Apparently, though, this was accidental. When DWJ handed over the artwork to Mike Spicer, he didn't stipulate which Seeker this was. So he painted him up as Starscream, and it was meant to be Thundercracker.
All right.
Thundercracker.
Not Thundercracker, sorry.
Skywalk.
Oh.
Doesn't matter at this point.
They're all
really,
the same, aren't they? So anyway, he stomps on, I guess, a police officer.
I think he was a police. Yeah.
And he does it again. Like the guy, Sparky's having another conversation with this police officer. It's like, you have to get the military here. Like, you don't understand. He did all of this.
Yeah.
Why are you saying that you need to go through this procedure?
Well, because they've never
call it in.
Because they haven't seen them. They don't. Are you going to believe him?
Well, he did say, like, look around. What else could have done this?
And could be any terrorist organisation.
What else other than alien robots that you've never seen before? You're not going to jump straight to giant transforming robots, are you?
No.
Until they jump on you, I suppose. Yeah.
You're going to make your way through natural disaster, terrorists.
Exactly.
Then maybe, giant robots from outer space.
So, yeah, they start juicing up this machine, and the Air Force get called in, completely at Robert Kirkman's request, apparently.
Right.
Because we'll get to it, but essentially the Air Force get called in and saying that they were experiencing some funny radar. Well, that's a very technical term, isn't it? Some funny radar, and then there's an aerial battle with Starscream.
Yeah.
In which Starscream kind of transforms in midair and slaps the plane away.
This is also straight from the Michael Bay film, isn't it?
Is it?
It does happen.
Starscream takes on a plane and transforms
It is a
mid-flight.
slap. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. He does wear his influences on his sleeve, doesn't he? And then they eject, and the pilot gets
Popped.
squished directly between his hands. Splat, it says, in huge red
Another squish.
red writing, red kind of almost kind of blood-stained like writing. He says hi to him first. Hi, and then splats him. And the other guy deploys like a flying jetpack thing and gets away, and it turns out his name is Duke because, yes, that's right, he's from
G.I. Joe.
Yeah, he's from G.I. Joe. Which, that is why this is in here. Robert Kirkman said that he wanted this in here to cross over with the other comic.
I sort of feel if I didn't know that this was a shared universe, I would have been absolutely bewildered by this segment.
Yeah, he'd be like, why is this happening? Why has that guy got a jetpack?
He's a duke.
Or you could just be think he's a setup for a character that will come back.
Yes,
well, which I guess he basically is.
And he will, yeah.
Yeah.
He
I
will
mean,
at
doesn't
some
this
point.
mean that the government's now going to be alerted to this robot?
One would have thought they would have been the minute robots started turning up anywhere anyway.
Well, I think that they're meant to be in this very remote place, aren't they? This is like sort of this is
It
mentioned.
does look a bit Alaska-y.
Yeah.
So, which I kind of get that like they're sort of out there dealing with this threat by themselves, which we'll see a bit of later. But like this sort of breaks that a bit, I think. Think. Anyway, it is what it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Shared universe, isn't it?
But yeah. So yeah, I think he fires a flare gun into Starscream's face, which allows him to get away. And yeah, we see his name patch says Duke, which anybody who's a G.I. Joe fan will know who that is. But if you're not, yeah, would be mighty confusing. But it doesn't matter. We get straight back to the rest of the action. Right, this next panel confuses me.
All right.
This next page. So we're going back to the power plant, and we've got Skywarp, and he's chasing Sparky, who's now taken a police car.
Sure.
What's this jet?
That's the one that Starscream batted out of the sky.
But
Is it like falling?
didn't they eject?
Yeah, but the pilots have gone.
I think it's crashing.
That's just the plane.
So is that crashing into them?
Yeah,
Right.
That's basically Starscream has
It's
smacked
sort of
the
going
plane
overhead. Do
into
we
his
see
mate.
And that's what causes the explosion
Yeah,
at the plant.
it has
oh,
to be. doesn't it?
Okay.
It's not. You're right. It's not that clear.
No, I thought maybe that plane had just turned up to like attack them.
And land, well, no, because it's falling out the sky. Because otherwise, it's travelling sideways.
Well, I mean, I know, you can make those conclusions, but it's not clear. You know what I mean?
I don't think it's super clear.
No, agree with that.
Nevertheless, that is what's happening. I think.
Boom! The plant. It's oh no, Dad, says Carly and Spike.
Dad.
Yeah. Prime's like, what's Dad again? He works there. Something must have happened. And then Cliffjumper uses his binoculars because his eyes aren't. Even though he's a robot with special electric eyes, has to use binoculars to see things in the far distance. That's fine, I guess.
You put different lenses on cameras.
Yeah, okay, it's not a problem. And so yeah, Prime's like, right, well, we've got to go do something about this, haven't we? And yeah, Ratchet kind of goes, but we need to find more energy to fight the Decepticons. And he's like, well, we've got no choice in the matter, have we? Really? and off they go. He transforms, and there's a great transformation sequence. I really enjoy the way he's transforming into the...
Oh yeah, this is one of my favourite things about the whole thing, is how weird the transformations look. I've never seen it done this way, and it's really fun.
Yeah, it's nice. He's just kind of all broken up, and kind of like you can see, and he's almost transforming like the toy, like his head's flipping back on that little panel.
Yes, it's even got that panel.
Yeah, it's great. And Spike convinces Prime to take him with him because it's his, it's family.
Family.
Yeah, family.
And it's all about the family.
And then Carly decides she's going home, so
As she would.
She speeds off, and Laserbeak spots that she's drawn Optimus Prime on the side of her van, and therefore follows her.
Oh yeah.
Now, do you get that bit?
Yeah,
I didn't spot that before.
Because I thought he was just having a fly around anyway.
No, he spots it. You can see in one of the panels. You can see
Oh yeah, I missed that.
Yeah,
I'm sure you're right. Actually,
yeah.
he zooms in on
I missed
Optimus
that bit.
Prime's face on the side of the van.
He does.
So that was why she was customizing her van earlier for no reason, so that we could have this scene. I don't know. That could have been done less clumsily, I think, but it doesn't matter. Now, why did Spike go to? So when she gets home, Sparky's there. He's arrived at her dad's home, and he's got out all his guns and all of his gear, and is ready for war. So why did Sparky go to Davy's place to get his guns and his weapons?
I was super confused by this as well, because it does feel like
I just assumed that's where it was all kept, and he knew her dad was a bit more of a gun nut than he was.
That's what I thought.
were they like war buddies or something? Is that implied?
Not really.
So it is weird because it does feel like it's like I'm getting my army gear back on to get, but it's not his house.
No.
Or did Carly go to Sparky's house?
No, it's definitely her house because there's a picture of her and her dad on the mantelpiece.
Yeah, right. So what's going on?
Unless Sparky's been stalking him, and he's keeping pictures of his family around.
It is a bit odd. Like, it doesn't really... narratively, it doesn't really add up. I mean, yeah, sure, you could jump to the conclusion that he stores his stuff at his mate's place for some reason. But no one said he does.
I think this sort of like, this kind of draws attention to something I thought in general, which is I thought that like, actually, I think it's nice that we start, because obviously like, go back to the cartoon, it starts in Cybertron. Mm-hmm. And this starts with the human characters, which I think is kind of quite good, because it sort of emphasises like the alienness of it and the weirdness of it. But like, you only spend about 3 minutes with them until you're like, we're like in the arc by like page 5 or something. Mm. And it's like, I think maybe it would be nice to spend a bit more time with these characters in the first issue before. Maybe we see Optimus in the last panel or something like that. It's sort of like, it feels rushed.
I do agree, and maybe you could have explained all this stuff a little bit clearer as well.
Yeah, exactly. This could easily have been fleshed out.
But I suppose you've got to put out like an exciting first issue to get people to read.
Yeah.
Issue 2, etc., etc.
What if they just really enjoyed the human story and read issue 2 based on that?
Well, yeah. I mean, maybe you could do that. I mean, but that's a ballsy move, and it's clearly not one they wanted to do.
Maybe you'll get to read that in a spin-off comic.
But yeah,
where it's just a lot of people down the pub talking.
I think they could have done a bit more, even within that framework.
Yeah. Dave, I saw you were thinking of saying something about...
Oh, no, I was just thinking about the whole thing of him storing the weapons, that it might just be a case of that he... Because we really get the whole vibe that he wants to forget the war and, I guess, his son to an extent at the beginning.
Yeah.
And, like, could kind of believe that he would, like, just offload all of that stuff to, like, his mate. Because he seems like to be, like, a close friend of even Carly and Spike are friends. Like, I think it's an easy, like, leap to make that he's got all of his gear there.
Oh, yeah, sure. I think that is kind of what's probably supposed to be happening, but it's just odd how under-explained it is.
Yeah, they don't telegraph it at all. There's no real...
There is also a thing that we'll come to in a sec, that the entire town seems to be a militia.
Well,
at least that bar, yeah. Like, they're all...
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, let's get into it. Issue 3 has this militia in, so let's move on to issue 3.
Back issues. We got back issues.
issue 3. Now, issue 3, the cover looks like this, guys. It has Optimus Prime fighting Soundwave and the tapes.
Getting his hand right in his tape deck.
And it is a direct homage to the cover of Transformers UK issue 1.
Is it?
Is it?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it does look a lot familiar now you say it.
Yeah, the first issue of Transformers UK has a very similar scene between Soundwave and Optimus Prime fighting like in space above Earth, and it's almost exactly the same bodily positions as this.
Cool.
Yeah, very similar.
Or is it?
So that's obviously a deliberate reference. Anyway, let's get into the issue. This picks up where the last issue left off. Sparky explains how Davey died to Carly. Turns out Davey was Carly's dad. Now, where's Carly's mum?
Where's anyone's mum?
There are no mums.
This is a mumless world.
Carly said in the previous issue, I need to get back to my parents, plural. But she's not asking where's mum, or what's happened to mum, or anything. It's just, right, my dad's died now, that's really awful. No reference.
Well, are there any women in this except Carly?
No.
RC?
Well, yes.
Sort of RC. But I mean, that does feel like quite in keeping with the retro theme, I suppose.
It's just odd that she said she needed to get back to her parents, and it seems that she only has one. But I don't know. Anyway,
It's not clear.
it doesn't matter because Laserbeak turns up and smashes through the wall for some reason.
Quickest way in. Wouldn't fit through the door.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, he don't know why he's attacking them. To be honest, he doesn't seem to have a good reason. But I suppose it's because he saw Optimus Prime on the van.
It's also because he's a Decepticon and they like attacking things.
They sort of seem like monsters in this. I think like that's the vibe of they're just sort of like always being hounded by them. They just always turn up and they're always like just smashing through things and like trying to squish people and kill people.
I think they are lots of homages to cinematic monsters because there's this panel in this issue just after Laserbeak crashes through the wall where it looks like it's out of Aliens. Because you've got just a black elongated head in front of a marine, and it just looks like it could be a shot from Aliens.
Well, and there's another one that looks a bit like it's from Aliens or even Terminator or something, because Cliffjumper turns up and wrestles Laserbeak to the floor.
More wrestling.
Seems to kick him in the head. And he's like, I saw you driving away. I just wanted to make sure you were good. I'm glad I did. And then Sparky puts a shotgun to his head and says, get away from her, you bitch, essentially. Yeah. Which is Aliens, obviously. But it says get away. But it very much seems that kind of thing.
It's sort of got something like that.
Another Autobot takes one to the head.
Yeah, and then he shoots him in the head with a shotgun. And he falls through the side of the house.
Saying, ow.
Yeah, because human weaponry doesn't really hurt the Transformers much.
But I guess it's because Cliffjumper's so small. It's gonna.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, he just smashed through the side of something. He's gonna say ow, I guess. And he grabs hold of Carly and they leave in the police car. Meanwhile, on the Ark, Soundwave tells Starscream that although they have enough energy from that power plant, they are lacking raw materials, and they need those to rebuild their comrades. And they revisit the "Don't say Megatron" thing.
Although this time we get a full Megatron out of his mouth.
Yeah, he does manage to say Megatron, doesn't he?
He decided to start his sentence with Megatron. That way he got it out first.
Yeah. Megatron would have.
Oh, he's like, Megatron would have done this differently, and he's like... And Starscream... This is basically kind of the dynamic these characters tend to have, I suppose, where like Soundwave is the Megatron loyalist, and he's a bit more... I mean, he's still he's still a bastard in this, actually, as we'll see later, but he's a bit more calculating and a bit more like... There's some sort of reasoning behind what he's doing, and Starscream just seems unhinged.
And he is cradling Ravage again. Like
He's
you said.
upset about Ravage.
It was at this point, for me, it really started to feel like, it reminded me of Lion King, when, like, you can't say Mufasa to Scar. Like, that's what it kind of came.
Could be a reference. But yeah, he kind of slaps him down, doesn't he? And he's like, I told you not to say his name. And like he's like cowering on the floor, and Ravage is lying on the floor as well.
Here's the thing about Starscream. Like, he seems to be nominally in charge, but like, why? Because they've only just woken up, and I think Megatron was with them like the last time they were conscious. By the sound of it.
He's kind of become the default second in command in Transformers things, though, isn't he? Like
That's kind of. I mean, he's
but
obviously
why?
always got that ambition, but like I feel like Soundwave feels more like he's a right hand man.
I mean, it's kind of that kind of Sith Lord and Padawan type of the lust of power.
Is it?
There is a very telling line in issue 5 or 6 when Prime is having a conversation with Starscream.
Oh yeah, we'll get on to that, but yeah.
We'll come to that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. He's kind of in charge, but for no apparent reason.
It feels like just because he's done this sort of thing before, it's a bit like, okay, you can fill in the blanks, but like, I don't know, maybe you could have had more of a power struggle between the characters or something, but he's just there. He's just sort of leader now. No one's really questioned it.
Yeah. All you need is a line of dialogue explaining it, and it's just not there.
Yeah, it's just kind of got that. It does feel like a bit like it's falling back on your knowledge of previous iterations of this a bit.
I agree. Because, I mean, in other iterations, they're kind of explained away. Because in the original G1, it made no sense that Megatron kept Starscream around.
No! He was like usually openly talking about usurping him like to his face. And like, I think he might like shot him a few times. Yes. And Megatron's just like, okay, like, shut up Starscream and get on with it.
Yeah, so in other versions they kind of said, oh well, he's like a particularly great warrior or a particularly good kind of like he's the leader of the aerial forces, like in the
it makes sense if he's just the most powerful, like that would track because that's what they're like.
Yeah,
and that is sort of what's implied, I guess maybe with Starscream a lot of the time, that he's crazy and dumb, but like he is very strong.
Yeah, he's capable, even if he's nuts. Meanwhile, Sparky takes Carly to the bar, the VFW bar.
You missed Skywarp slurping down some hot Energon juice.
Yeah, I like that bit. Yeah, that's nice.
That's true, he is, isn't he? Yeah, because they get a priority message from Laserbeak that they found an Autobot, so they're going to go and deal with it. And yeah, he is slurping Energon juice out of a straw, which is a little bit comedic, but quite fun. So yeah, at the bar, it is a veterans bar, so it kind of makes sense that all the veterans have gathered there and are taking up arms because there's giant robots attacking their town.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not a huge leap to make, I think that's fine.
Again, I think this is a very remote place as well. There's not much, help might be a way off. That seems okay. Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah, the way there seems to be trees and mountains everywhere, it feels like Alaska.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they make it clear exactly where they are.
There's a sort of a sense this is like a town people have kind of come here to get away from things, and they don't like, there's maybe a bit of a loner kind of vibe to this, that they're like, we'll just deal with this ourselves. We don't expect help. Yeah,
I agree with that. Cliffjumper turns up and he says, I think we may have gotten off on the wrong foot. Took me a while to deal with with Laserbeak, but then Sparky just opens fire on him with an automatic weapon.
I think it's a bit like this is a bit heavy-handed, like the way that it's just like they just keep shooting at him, and they're just like they don't. It's just they're just like no. Like there's no like sort of sense that they're going to listen to them for 1 second.
It makes sense though, because like this is from Sparky's perspective. He's had three incidences with these robots, and they've just destroyed everything and killed people in front of him.
And they're all jumpy ex-vets.
No, sure. Like I think it's almost comical that like the amount of times they try and like talk them around, they just like throw more, like shoot them again.
Yeah, no, it is, but it's understandable, but
Commenting on America's use of guns.
Yeah,
It's the whole PTSD thing again.
I mean, it doesn't help that Skywarp turns up seconds later and starts
Yeah.
kicking people, punting people around and stuff.
Yeah, and he thinks that it was a setup, and he's like, it was a trap.
they're just like scared and bewildered, which is a totally reasonable reaction to what's happened.
Yeah, absolutely. So from a distance, Prime and Spike notice this is kicking off. So they head in that direction. And so then there's a bit where kind of Skywarp's basically about to kind of put down Cliffjumper, and Carly gets in the way and kind of tries to protect him, which Skywarp finds absolutely hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And his response is, cool.
And now it's time for Prime's hero moment.
Ta-da!
Yay!
He drives into his chest. I mean, it is a great bit of artwork. It does look fantastic.
Yeah.
I love the way that Skywarp's chin is like flat against the top of Prime's cab, and his null rays all bent like to show like the way that the movement. I do think it's a good bit of art.
I think the art is generally really great in this. Actually, I really enjoyed a lot of it, and I think it's got a real sort of sense of like motion to a lot of it, and a sort of weight, and sort of like it's very kinetic, which I guess like makes sense with the wrestling stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, there is maybe too much wrestling in this comic, I think. But like, I think the art
they
style
could dial it down a little bit.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's really fun. I've not really quite seen them drawn like this before. I think it's good.
Mm. Yeah, no, I agree, and we get a bit more of transforming, which again looks great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Optimus transforming into his robot mode. I love the way that he's transforming and he's dropping off Spike at the same time with his hand.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Like it's like he's kind of moved Spike from the cab down his arm into his palm and then dropped him off in a kind of way. It's quite nice.
I really like the display of Skywarp's power as well during the fight.
Oh, really? I don't.
Really?
I have a bit of a problem with teleport.
Yeah.
When he seems to have made a portal.
So essentially they start fighting and Skywarp uses his teleport power to not teleport.
If he's just teleported his arm,
yeah.
Why doesn't it drop on the floor?
I guess it's a novel use of it, maybe.
So it's not a teleport, is it?
No, it's not. He's making a portal.
Yeah.
He's not making he's not teleporting.
He's making a space door that he's put his arm through.
I see what you mean. That's not.
I was going to say I kind of like it used in combat because it's normally just used for him to just sneak around and teleport places.
It's usually used for him to teleport, and now it's used for him to not teleport.
You're right. That's not class. It's not a classic teleport, is it? It's more like it's more like a little portal.
It's essentially the Spot from Across the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's not visit that one again.
No, but it is just make a hole in time space, stick your hand through it, and do something on the other side of it.
Prime's about to get his axe out.
Yeah, he is, isn't he? Yeah.
I feel it's like quite laboured actually. You're like, he's doing it. Oh, he's not done it.
Exactly.
Or like it doesn't. It's anticlimactic.
Got to get a few more suplexes in first.
Yeah, he does a bit more wrestling.
Yeah, we've got to have some more wrestling first, and then we'll get the axe out.
And pile driving.
Yeah, absolutely. And then as soon as he got his axe out, that someone shoots him in the arm with a bazooka.
Blimey.
Yeah.
That got his attention.
Yeah. And it's actually caused some damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the bullets do nothing, but this is a bit more of a serious matter.
Yeah, a big rocket can actually cause them some harm.
Skywarp just seems to find everything hilarious, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, he's finding it all very comical, and he takes full advantage of the fact that the humans have just shot upon him and starts laying into Prime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so Spike goes running towards him. I mean, I don't know why you would do that, but he does. And next page, shocker. He's caught in the crossfire. He's been shot by one of the humans.
I feel like Spike's character in this, beyond anything, is just like, I refuse to ever be careful. That's not what I'm about.
And that's throughout the entire franchise, I think.
Yeah. That's fair enough, actually. He's like, I will take zero precautions and run straight into gunfire at every opportunity. And if you tell me not to, I'll run away from home or something.
So Spike gets shot. Spike, no! Says Prime.
Proper Narcs Prime.
Yeah. And of course Sparky as well, who tells everyone to hold their fire. Prime attacks Skywarp in a fit of rage.
Mm-hmm.
So angry, he rips his arm off and beats him to death with it.
That was exactly in my notes. That was the exact wording that I also used. I said, I mean, he's not actually dead, but I've written Prime beats Skywarp to death with his own arm ? ! Exclamation mark.
Yeah, I wrote Prime attacks Skywarp, rips off his own broken arm and hits him with it. Okay.
Isn't that a reference to G1? Well,
In what way?
In the time that Prime gets his arm ripped off and beats.
Yeah, I remember
Skywarp
that
to death
time
with
where
it.
Prime ripped his own arm off and beat someone to death. I remember that, yeah.
it was like
No.
it was like a concept for the War Dawn episode where Megatron kills Orion Pax in the original storyboard. Like he rips his arm off and kills him with the arm.
Rips whose arm off?
Orion Pax's arm off.
Right, and kills Orion Pax with an arm.
Yeah, but then they were like, that's too violent.
Save it for the movie.
Yeah, it's less violent to rip your own arm off and beat someone with
To
it.
be honest, I think that was the right advice.
I think so too. I think it's almost pushing too violent for this comic because it's kind of gross.
Yeah, I mean, we have a double-page splash of him ripping his own arm off. I honestly think that DWP thinks this is super awesome.
DWP.
Sorry, DWJ.
DWJ.
Sorry.
What's the Department for Works and Pensions?
Yes, I apologise. Daniel Warren Johnson thinks this is super awesome.
Yeah, he thinks. I feel it's almost like a bit of a 90s idea that this is awesome.
Yes, it is. It's very Image Comics, isn't it? It's very kind of like, whoa, he's ripped his own arm off and he's beating him to death. Wow.
Mind you, I quite like that panel of where he's just sort of flopped over Skywarp's head and he's kind of like,
Yeah. And not the one before though, where he's swinging it around is a bit kind of mad.
Swap.
Yeah.
It's like he's windmilling
Yeah.
it.
He is windmilling his
I feel
own
like
arm.
this is a crazed thing for Prime to be doing, and it doesn't quite fit with his character. That's my feeling
Not
about
at all.
it. But I mean, it looks the drawings are good.
That's why I think these are all broken robots with some mental health problems.
Well, the argument is that he's so enraged by
He's really
Spike
lost
being
it,
shot that he
yeah.
does this.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I kind of like it in terms of just like how visceral it is. You know, the idea of ripping your own arm off in order to use it as a weapon is quite,
But you can use your own arm as a weapon by punching people.
Well, he was about to use his lovely axe, but it didn't work
It's all
out.
smashed up though, isn't it? I assume that his arms is so badly damaged that it's not working properly.
Yeah.
That's why he's done this.
It's fine, I guess. But it is. I do feel that they've gone maybe a little over the top.
I don't,
Maybe if it's still attached, it isn't covered by the warranty, so he can't get a replacement. It has to come right off.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
fair
what
enough.
that's what my Optimus Prime toy looks like. Actually, he is missing his right arm.
Well, there you go.
It's toy accurate.
I do like he's got enough components left of the arm to make that half of the cab when he transforms.
Well, he's got a big hole in it. So yeah, after he's beaten Skywarp unconscious or whatever, he picks up Spike's body and is like, Sparky's like, "Don't you touch him! Don't you touch my son!" And Optimus just kind of gives him a look, and then transforms and says, "Come with me."
If you want to live.
No, I'm going to save your boy. I think if I.
You skip something else, though. Before that, Prime's having a moment of existential angst looking at Spike's body and
Yes.
flashing to the
To the
deer
deer,
he'd killed. And both of them look like they've got road marks on them.
Do you think?
Like the way that Spike's coat is on him, it looks like a tyre track has made him a bit squishy flat in the middle.
Maybe.
I think this
And then
is
you go to the
coincidence.
deer, that is definitely a bit squishy flat in the middle.
There's just a lot of cross hatching.
I think there's no cross-hatching here. I think it's just that, yeah, I mean, they both...
It's just the way it parallels.
Yeah, well, it is kind of like the idea that he values all life.
Yeah, this is sort of coming through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, he transforms, quite a good transform stuff, and he has got a massive hole where his arm would be, as it were, in the. I mean, yes, maybe there would be a bigger hole since he's ripped all his arm
I think
off.
more would be missing. Yeah.
There's a hole in the back and there's a hole in the front. Like there's quite a lot missing, actually.
Yeah. Well, an arm is quite a big thing to lose.
Yeah, and that's the end of the issue. So to be continued, as it says. And in the proper comic, you get a letters page where everyone's going, "Wow, this is super awesome! Everything's super awesome! You write super awesome comics, guys!" And then there's a trailer for the Cobra Commander comic. Anyway, that's that issue done.
The Cobra Commander comic. Why are you just there? It's just because it is the comic.
Mm-hmm.
Have you read it?
No.
Right. That also ends of squishy and people exploding.
It does.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
Does it? Well, I've not read it. No, but I mean, I don't. I'm not bothered really.
I'm just saying this might be a line-wide thing. There might be a lot of squishing.
Well, I think there's trying to be. They're trying to go quite hardcore on the violence, aren't they? A bit. Anyway, issue 4. Yes, we are going to talk about issue 4 and 5 and 6, but that half of this crossover episode appears on the Arc My Optics feed. So We've Got Back Issues fans will need to head over there to listen. And all you Arc My Optics listeners visiting We've Got Back Issues for the first time, why not stick around? Galactosh, how about you tell them what we've done so far, what we've covered so far?
Yeah, stick around for the frills and spills of the first 10 issues, the Fantastic Four. So fantastic, we had to cut it into 2 parts.
True.
Following that, moving on to the death of Superman. And everything that entailed and brought with it.
Oh, indeed, all those splash pages.
Oh.
Once you've been over to Arc My Optics and listened to part 2 of this podcast, don't forget to head back over here for the next episode in which we will be covering what, Galactosh?
We will be covering from the pages of Judge Death magazine.
Go on.
We will be covering from the pages of Judge Dredd magazine, Young Death.
Yes, we are. Well done. That almost sounded rehearsed. Well, it didn't.
That almost sounded like I could speak English.
Yeah, you got there eventually. Anyway, so thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this part and enjoy part 2. And we hope to see you back here next time for the next issue of We Got Back Issues, right?
Yeah, come join us. Listen to them both. They're both great podcasts.
They are both great podcasts, even if I do say myself.
If you haven't been listening to them, why not? And why are you here now? Go back to the beginning.
Yes, please do. All right, bye.
Bye.
We got back issues. We got back issues. We got back issues. We got back issues.
I don't want to just look at myself. All by myself. Don't want to be all by myself anymore.